Good Morning Liberty.
Well, what is up, all of our liberty-loving friends? This is another fantastic episode of Good Morning Liberty. My name is Nate Thurston. Across from me is Mr. Charles Chuck Thompson. How's it going today, Chuck?
Depressed as always.
Why are you depressed?
Well,
I thought you weren't voting for Trump.
well, I'm just talking about football.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's a Monday, and so it's time to be depressed about football.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the way it goes.
You know, we were asked this weekend why we don't get very excited even when the Cowboys win.
Because we know what's going to happen.
Because we know what's going to happen.
So we've been doing this long enough, okay? If you're a Bears fan, your life sucks. If you're a Titans fan, your life sucks. You guys get it. You understand the thing. What else happened yesterday? Anything in particular? Kind of a slow news weekend.
Yeah,
you know,
not much happened over the weekend.
Those slow news weekends that you just don't know what you're going to talk about when you come in early Monday
morning. Well, Friday
was
Friday the 13th.
Okay.
So you thought all kinds of crazy stuff was going to happen.
Yeah.
But I didn't see much.
Didn't see anything.
Okay. Saturday, the Vols, Tennessee Vols won like 71-0.
Okay.
They were up 62-0 at halftime. So that was, interesting game. Riveting.
Yes.
So
very
that was
exciting.
And then Sunday, didn't see too much. Obviously, Taylor Swift was jumping up and down as the Kansas City Chiefs barely beat the Bengals.
Yeah.
And I think that's about it.
That's about it.
Yeah.
You know what? Did you see Trump's tweet where he said that he hates Taylor Swift?
Yeah.
Super.
I saw that.
Great. Smart tweet. Gonna win over a lot of people with that, probably. I don't know. There might be more people who hate her than who like her. The people who like her are just really loud.
I don't think so.
She might actually have the popular vote, I guess. And then you know what happened a few hours later? I'm just, it's Conspiracy Monday right now. You see what happens after that.
Yeah.
We get a second assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Now, I was having this conversation with my wife last night. I feel weird saying assassination attempt when the attempt didn't occur. But I guess the act of taking a gun and a GoPro camera and 2 backpacks, which as we know, you don't want to see someone with 2 backpacks.
Mm-hmm.
That's dangerous. Taking a couple backpacks and hiding in the bushes. Like, is that the attempt? That's the way it goes?
Did he ever get a shot off?
No, he didn't get a shot off from what I saw.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, it's being called second assassination attempt. Of course, if he would have had any more time for Trump to come down the fairway or something like that, he had a crappy AK-47 rifle with a scope. Okay, with a scope on it. So I think that's good from about 50 yards. It's pretty good. But luckily, everyone was unharmed. So we had the second assassination attempt, and man, people really don't like Donald Trump. They don't like Donald Trump, whoever they are.
Yeah.
I don't know who they are. And of course, this guy was a Republican gun nut,
Oh, yeah.
Trump voted for Trump in 2016, but has since moved away from Trump. But I guess he's still a Republican. I saw he donated to Democrats also. So we're following the playbook right now. Someone who was a Trump supporter later donated to Democrats, because Trump is a threat to democracy and all that kind of stuff. We already know more about this guy than we do about the last guy.
Well, here's the main question you need to ask. Where are AK-47s made?
Nebraska.
Originally. Where are they made?
Okay. It sounds like they're probably Russian to me.
Yeah.
But I bet he got it from Afghanistan. Would be my guess. I think that's where he got that thing.
So, you do the math.
It's pretty crazy stuff. Let's go through.
So maybe the intelligence community was right about Russian interference.
We're going to go through what we know about this whole thing.
And then a whole bunch of stuff we don't know.
And then we're just going to speculate wildly because that's the really fun part. But this one, just so you guys know, I'm sure you guys know already, this one stinks to high heaven, just like the last one, only in a very different way. The last time we had the roof closest to the stage, 150 yards away from the stage, being uncovered by the Secret Service. Now that's kind of weird. That's pretty weird, isn't it?
That's
A
strange.
shooter who has no social media presence whatsoever and gets on a roof that's uncovered. Luckily for him, he happens to go to the place where there's a roof 150 yards away from the stage, and they're not covering the roof at all. So that's just good luck. And this one also had some good luck on his part too, because what do you know? He happens to park his car and walk through the shrubs onto this private golf course. What do you know? There's Donald Trump coming around the bend.
Where
the luck of these guys,
where no one knows,
miraculous.
No one knows Trump's schedule. Except for very few people.
Some people know the schedule.
Yeah.
And somehow this guy seemed to know where Trump was. We'll talk about that. We're not in the speculating wildly portion of the show yet. We're in the here's what we know for sure portion. And here's just a little bit of the press conference.
1:30 this afternoon, call came out, shots fired. That was called in by the Secret Service. Because we're in constant contact with them all the time, we were notified of that, and we had units here that immediately sealed off the area. Fortunately, we were able to locate a witness that came to us and said, hey, I saw the guy running out of the bushes. He jumped into a black Nissan, and I took a picture of the vehicle and the tag, which was great. So we had that information. Our real-time crime center put it out to the license plate readers. And we were able to get a hit on that vehicle on I-95 as it was headed into Martin County. We got a hold of Martin County Sheriff's Office, alerted them, and they spotted the vehicle and pulled it over and detained the guy.
Now, what you can't account for, you see, when you're planning the assassination of a president is that lone witness who sees you running to your car and has a smartphone and takes a picture. Like, that's you can't control every single part of the entire operation. Everyone should just watch the movie Shooter. I mean, it explains the entire thing in detail. Okay.
Yeah, it does.
It tells you everything that you need to know. So that's some of the, apparently, so Trump was out there golfing. Now the Secret Service failed miserably in the first assassination attempt. They failed miserably in both ways. Didn't get the job done in either direction, whichever job it was of theirs. They didn't cover the roof, and they did not achieve their objective. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you know sorry, we're not in the speculation part of the episode yet. This time, it doesn't seem to be fault of the Secret Service. So I just want to mention that the reason they saw this guy and were able to stop this from happening was because they were advancing. And so they went to the hole that Trump was about to go to and looked around. Luckily, some guy saw a rifle sticking out of the bushes and engaged the shooter.
Like sticking out of a window, yeah.
Yeah, just like that, sticking out, and engaged him, and he ran, got in his car, and drove off, and there was a guy there, someone there to take pictures of it, and they caught him, and he's in custody, and I just want to put it out here, he didn't kill himself, just so everyone knows. I don't think, he might be suicidal now, he got caught, but I don't think he killed himself. What do we know about this guy? Oh, I wanted to point out, CNN seemed to be the first people to get this right yesterday, because you had all kinds of news stories going around about how there were shots exchanged somewhere near the golf course. Two
other people.
Yeah. I saw that. I believe even the New York Post had a headline out saying that it was two other people. There was an incident near the golf course.
Yeah, Josh Eccles saying there was a blatant lie.
Did he? I didn't see that.
He deleted that post.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I saw it before he did.
Did you screenshot it?
No, I wish I would have.
You got a screenshot.
I got to screenshot those.
Yeah, so that kind of thing was going on a lot yesterday, and Charlie and I were hanging out watching the football game, and he told me about this assassination attempt, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. And that's kind of how I react to things on Twitter these days, because I would say at least half of the things on Twitter are made up or taken out of context, just blatantly made up, or lies, or whatever it is you want to call it.
Clickbait.
And yeah, that kind of clickbait stuff. And that tends to be what does the best on Twitter.
Yeah.
Because, sensationalizing everything, like there's a reason that people do that, you know. But CNN kind of came out first with this thing, and they kind of got it right. So Brian Stelter, good thing he's out there, good thing he's back, because they seem to be the ones that got this whole thing right. Now, this guy, what was his name? Ryan Ruth? Is that his name? Ryan?
Something like that.
Ryan
yeah.
Ruth?
Ryan Ruth.
I think that was
Jack
his name.
Ryan.
Jack Ryan Ruth was out there. Appears to be a staunch Ukraine supporter. So now you're starting to see some motive come into play here. Now, I don't believe that this is conspiracy theory or anything. He is obsessed with Ukraine like I don't know, like a pro-lifer is obsessed with talking about abortion or something, like that kind of thing. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean someone picks an issue and then it's like their life or death issue that they talk about all the time. And this guy was very, very concerned about Russia invading Ukraine and people going to fight for Ukraine, so much so that he went over, apparently, from all the reports I've seen online, went over to fight for Ukraine, was recruiting for Ukraine, and that seems to be the issue. Now, Trump claims that he's going to end this war, like on day one, as president-elect, he's going to end this war. And, I don't know if he could do it actually that quickly, but if he were to do it, that would mean he would negotiate some sort of a compromise between the two of them, where Ukraine would have to give up some of their land that they had previously in some of those regions where people already probably wanted to be part of Russia in the first place, that they would at least have to give up those regions if he were to negotiate it that quickly. And
probably agree not to join NATO.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
And my assumption is this guy is not cool with that. Now, you could say that's his only motive, that right there. But there's other motives in play here too, if you consider that maybe he's not working alone. Maybe he has handlers.
Question from the live group: why is this guy here in the U.S. instead of in Ukraine firing at Russians? He was in Ukraine.
Yeah. Well, he's looking at the bigger picture. You see, the biggest threat to Ukraine is not Vladimir Putin; it's Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And so he's got to take out Donald Trump.
And it's a combo because he's a threat to democracy and a threat to Ukraine. So
double threat.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the threat to democracy. There's all kinds of video and stuff of him going around. Apparently this is like a 10-minute interview with him talking about why Ukraine winning the war is important and people going to fight against Russia and all that. We're not going to put you through 10 minutes of video, anything like that. He did appear in, now I want to show you the way that things get. This is why I just don't ever trust anything on Twitter, because there's always a community note proposed on something. And I don't know if, I guess not everyone can see all of the proposed community notes. I guess you have to be like a community note writer to see every single one of them. And so since we're a community note writer, we can see every single proposed community note on every single post that there is. And so it provides a lot of context on things that I think a lot of people end up not being able to see. So this is from Chief Trumpster. It says, Trump shooter appeared in a propaganda video for Azov in May of 2022. Big if true. Okay, Azov is like the Nazi battalion in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting. This is the 8-second clip where he gets shown.
Purpose of the action is to appeal to what leaders, what organization.
Okay, there's your 8-second clip. There's him being really sad with a American flag, either a bandana or a flag or something wrapped around himself. So very sad about what's happening. Now this says this video was shot by participants, not Azov. I don't know what participants means. Azov has publicly stated the video was shot at a public protest, which anyone could attend. The shooter has zero ties to the Azov regiment in Ukraine.
But he was at a public protest.
He was at a public protest. Now they're specifically saying that Azov did not shoot this video. That doesn't mean that they didn't use the video, but they're just saying that Azov did not shoot this video. Okay. Then they say the shooter had zero ties to Azov regiment in Ukraine. That conflicts with a lot of things that I've seen that he had many ties. So what do I take away from that? You know what I take away from that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I know he's got ties to Ukraine. Maybe not Azov. Maybe Azov, maybe not Azov. But I don't know. I don't know which one it is.
Mm-hmm.
Does it matter? I think the ties to Ukraine matters, you know.
Yeah, that matters. And
So,
that's already out there. Whether or not it's Azov, probably is as well. If you're meeting with the Ministry of Defense over there in Ukraine and you're recruiting folks to come help fight the war,
yeah.
you've probably ran into Azov at
Probably.
some point.
Yeah, probably met them, probably crossed paths
Yeah.
at one point in time. Here's a post before his Twitter got scrubbed. All of his social media, of course, got taken down. And I don't know.
By the way, somebody archived it all before they did it.
I saw
That was
people
pretty smart.
screen recorded and recorded the whole thing beforehand. I don't know why
Should the FBI be investigating this? I mean, shouldn't we count on the local sheriffs to investigate this? Probably.
I'd rather have local people investigating this for sure. But some of those are going to end up getting killed in the alleyway by a mugger or something like that if that happens. So once again, everyone should watch Shooter. Here's a post from Ryan Ruth's page at POTUS. This is in April, so POTUS is Joe Biden.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Says your campaign should be called something like KADAF. Keep America Democratic and Free. CADF.
Mm-hmm.
CADF. That doesn't have the same kind of ring to it. I don't know. Trump should be MASSA. Make Americans slaves again, master. That's Massam.
That's Massam.
Yeah, it's not Massa. But I get it. I get it. Massa. Democracy is on the ballot. And we cannot lose. We cannot afford to fail. The world is counting on us to show the way.
Mm.
You know, there's something weird about this whole democracy is on the ballot thing. Like, you care so much about democracy that you would not trust a democratic outcome of an election and try to go kill one of the people that's on the ballot for people to vote on. You know?
This is what's so wild to me.
Yeah.
It's so wild.
That's not so why is democracy so important to you if
you must practice anti-democratic actions?
Doesn't that mean that democracy is dangerous? Democracy itself is dangerous if you can't if one of the outcomes is something that's worth killing someone over? Well, that would seem to mean that democracy would be a bad thing to me. You don't trust democracy. First off, like, oh, if I don't like the outcome that the people vote for, well, we got to kill this guy.
Yeah.
You know, but for democracy, because democracy is so important. But if I don't like the outcome, I got to kill this guy, which means democracy sucks. Anyone, someone help me out with this, please?
Yeah, I mean, I can't do the math on that. I'm struggling.
Now, I guess you could say that American elections are anti-democratic because we have an electoral college and people who win the popular vote, that's not like majoritarian democracy because the person who wins the popular vote is not always the person who becomes the president. And so maybe that's anti-democracy. And so maybe shooting someone to affect the outcome of a U.S. election is not anti-democracy because we're a constitutional republic. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. Well,
See?
but democracy's on the line.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the ballot.
It's on the ballot. Feel like I've heard people say that before.
The way to protect democracy is to remove democracy from the ballot.
You got to take it off the ballot.
Yeah.
It's no longer on the ballot. Now we have democracy.
Yeah, exactly.
And I haven't understood this whole, I get the January 6th thing and fake electors and all that kind of stuff, whatever you want to call it. This whole threat to democracy thing, I'll tell you what, it all just feels made up. It feels very fake to me.
It is made up. It is fake.
Even, if anything, if you believe all of the fear mongering around what happened at the end of the last election, our institutions held up. Everything ended up fine. if you disagree with whatever schemes they were working on and all that, I mean, they still Joe Biden is the president right now.
Kind of.
Yeah, well, legally,
Yeah,
he's the president. And
Yeah.
so it seemed to hold
Trump
up.
didn't stay in the White House and call up the military and create a fortress and say, "I'm never leaving."
And they act like there's going to be something bad that happens after this election, and I don't understand that part either, because Trump's not currently in office. There's a difference in the person in office has a disagreement with the outcome of the election, and the person who's not in office has a disagreement. They're like, well, Hillary Clinton had a peaceful transfer of power. She didn't have power.
Yeah.
What was she going to do? She couldn't do anything about it. She wasn't in power. Trump was concerned.
She
with
didn't even
possible
show up
fraud.
to her own glass ceiling party.
She didn't. No, she didn't. It was still there. It wasn't broken. That was the problem. She wanted it to be broken. And at the end of Trump's second term, if he were to get one, they're like, oh, he's not going to leave power. He's not going to leave the office. Well, it's a second term. It's also not the same as the first time, because he wouldn't even be running for re-election anyway. I hope not. Anyway, for all we know, he could try and run for a third term or whatever. But to my knowledge, he's not trying to seek a third term after he wins this one. We'll see. I don't understand this whole freak out over democracy. And if you think democracy is so great, why not see what happens in the election? Because that's democracy. So several tweets still out there from Ryan Ruth, like, I'm an American coming to fight with you in Ukraine. I'm flying into Krakow and will take any transport to Kyiv to meet you, to fight to the death. We must get every civilian in the world to come and join the fight. I will be the example. Attack Moscow now. He also said, I'm willing to come to Ukraine to fight, respond, and I will come. Leaders, please arm every civilian in Ukraine to fight and put every military and private military on paid leave to go and fight as civilians. I'm willing to go and fight and die to beat Putin. We need a civilian army. Come on, people. We cannot sit around and do nothing. Let's see. This was in 2023. He says, I have thousands of Afghan soldiers, that wish to serve for the Haiti National Police at cheap wages. This is where I start thinking, like, okay, he's not just recruiting people for Ukraine either. He seems to be a recruiter for like paramilitary groups.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder who has connections with those kind of people. I don't know. I wonder who does that kind of thing.
Who knows? Yeah.
So he says, I have thousands of Afghan soldiers that wish to serve for the Haiti National Police at cheap wages. 1,000 with passports ready to fly. So he's going around. He's got Afghan soldiers that want to go fight in Haiti.
He puts his number there.
Yeah.
Please help me.
Number. There you go. Taiwan. I want to give Taiwan thousands of NATO-trained Afghan soldiers, and I would like to start a TaiwanForeignLegion.com to bring in the global volunteers to protect the shores of Taiwan. Please help me make this happen. Huh. He seems to be just heavily in favor of all the things that the military-industrial complex wants to get involved in all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's just, it's for America. It's for democracy. He wants to have democracy in Haiti, all that kind of stuff. Let's see. Now, here's another good example of how things can just get misconstrued or taken out of context for the sake of being sensational online. Read what Dmitry Medvedev from Russia said about this shooter. Now we'll get into the fun part of the episode.
All right. He posts on X, I wonder what would happen if it turned out that the failed new Trump shooter, Ruth, who recruited mercenaries for the Ukrainian army, was himself hired by the neo-Nazi regime in Kyiv for this assassination attempt.
I do wonder what would happen if that did turn out to be true. Now, that idea itself, I'll tell you what, it's not that far-fetched.
It's not.
It's not that crazy. I mean, hell, they blew up Germany's pipeline, or Russia's pipeline, to Germany. So they'll do some extracurricular activities, outside of Ukraine. You think Ukraine doesn't have this interest?
Oh, of course. That's what I was going to say. What's the motivation for Zelensky in Ukraine?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
which president would you rather have?
You potentially lose billions and billions and billions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
You
know who else might lose billions and billions of dollars? Other companies that are interested in rebuilding Ukraine after this whole thing. And we'll talk about that here in a bit. Now, that statement where he says, I wonder what would happen if it turned out that this was the case.
It's a question.
Yeah, that is a question. It's an assertion without any direct evidence. It's speculation. It's whatever it is you want to call it. U.S. Civil Defense News, who posts a bunch of fake stuff. The tweet is real, by the way. I went and found it on the guy's page.
Yeah.
But this had
said, the U.S. Civil Defense posted the picture of that tweet and said, update, Russian former president confirms that the second Trump assassin was working for Ukrainian intelligence and indirectly for the CIA. That tweet didn't confirm anything.
It did not.
I'll tell you that much. It's speculated.
Yeah.
Definitely speculated.
He could have said, it's confirmed. We know that Ukraine hired this guy to go to the U.S. and kill Donald Trump.
But then it could be just Russian disinformation. Yeah. They would spin it off that way.
Yeah. So that's why, I don't know how you read that and then come up with that unless you're just trying to get a lot of retweets, which is what a lot of people are trying to do. Then you get other people saying that, the shooter's page was taken down. It was suspended. This guy says, Elon saw the shooter was a conservative who has all the same beliefs he does and immediately nuked his account. They present you a screenshot of 2 tweets where the guy says that Donald Trump was a choice in 2016, but not anymore. And then one where he tweets Nikki Haley and says, please join Vivek as a team of president and vice president. We must do this now to create a winning ticket now that we can all get behind. Please do not be selfish and arrogant. Partner now to change the course of this election, break norms, and give us an option. Nikki Haley, as you know, would probably keep the whole Ukraine war thing going. So
let's say there's a they. Okay? The deep state, the super deep state, the deeper state.
A deeper one than that.
Yeah. The theys of the theys.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that exists. Just for conversational purposes.
Update. Charlie confirms that the deep estate exists.
Yeah. That would go viral.
It will. Let's post it.
So let's say that does exist just for conversation. My question would be, would they have an interest in someone like Nikki Haley going up against Joe Biden or Kamala Harris to be president? Because here's the thing I think about they. They actually don't care who's president as long as it's someone they can control.
Correct.
So,
correct.
This guy, if he's working for they, but of course he would want the ticket, the illusion of choice that we have between Republican and Democrat, to be people who are nice to they.
Well, you would get the same outcome on the issues that you care about, regardless of who wins the election in that event. Nikki Haley wins, you get the outcome that you want with Ukraine and with Taiwan and all those things. And if Kamala wins or Joe Biden, I don't know exactly when that tweet happened, wins, you get the same outcome that you want. And so the question is this really this guy's motivation because he cares so much about this? Or my biggest question is he working for someone else? I don't know. Because now that might just sound like, oh, wow, this is wildly speculating that he's working for someone else. How did he get within 400 yards of Trump, who was at an unscheduled golf outing? How did he get within 400 yards of Trump with a scoped rifle, no matter how Russian and terrible the rifle is, without having the direct knowledge that he was going to be at that golf course? So there's an article about this in Newsweek. By the way, this is what the map kind of looks like. He was on hole 6, I believe. Trump was on hole 5, kind of rounding the bend, and I think the guy was hiding over here in these shrubs right off the road, essentially. My assumption is, now this is a pure assumption, pure speculation. We don't have this actual evidence yet. My assumption is he pulled over off the side of the road and he just went over into the golf course. Now, I would like to see traffic camera footage, things like that, to see how long was he there. Because if he went over there and he parked there and he was sitting there all day in the shrubs with a rifle and a GoPro and a couple backpacks and his car was parked off the road and he was just sitting there all day. Okay, that's one thing. Off chance. Maybe Trump's in Florida. Maybe you kind of knew, well, traffic was bad the other day. That's because they had everything blocked off because Trump was coming through. So you kind of know that. He likes to play golf. He likes to play golf a lot. And so I'm just going to go camp out over here off the road and I'm just going to wait all day. So what I would like to know is, did he just get there in the morning and sit there and wait all day? Or did he happen to show up there like 20 minutes before Trump was rounding that bend? There should be enough traffic camera footage to tell us what the answer is to that question.
And where that guy's car was around the golf course.
I'm assuming since he was able to run off, get in his car and leave, and there's a big road going by right there, that's kind of what happened, but that is speculation.
Here's the most frustrating part that no one's talking about, but I'll talk about it, is that Trump was probably having the round of his life. He's on hole 5. He's probably 4 under par, and this guy ruined it.
I did. Well,
now he's not going to.
Did Trump finish the round?
No.
Did he?
He was taken to safety, unfortunately. Apparently, they have this special cart when he golfs.
A go-kart?
No, it's like,
when they got to
like a go bag. Yeah. It's a go kart. Yeah. Supposedly. And that's the most unfortunate thing, probably, that he wasn't going to be able to finish the round.
That's the saddest thing. He was about to break a record, probably.
And post the score. Yeah. Everyone who golfs understands that. When your round gets interrupted,
that's probably what kept Trump up last night.
You always think about what could have been. What if I could have finished all 18 holes and posted a new low?
We'll never know.
We're never going to know. Never know.
This guy
rudely interrupted.
Did the alleged Trump gunman have inside info on Trump's movements? Ex-FBI official calls the possibility scary. The man accused of trying to assassinate Donald Trump may have had inside information on his movements. A former FBI assistant director said, it seems like that's an FBI official, but FBI assistant director, it's kind of high up, don't you think? He's not the assistant to the director or anything. He's the assistant director. Chris Swecker told Newsweek that law enforcement will have to establish how Ryan Wesley Ruth appeared to know the exact details of when Trump was playing golf at a Florida resort. Shots were fired. We know all those things. The FBI later said it was joining the investigation into the shooting. Not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Swecker, who retired from the Bureau as assistant director with responsibility over all FBI criminal investigations, said Ruth appeared to be a wingnut who hated authority, unless it's an authoritarian in Ukraine. The biggest question to answer is, how did the would-be assassin know to be at that location at that time? There are only 3 possible answers. He guessed and got very lucky, just like the shooter in Pennsylvania did. Just guessed. It's like, well, what happens if I show up there and no one's covering the roof closest to the stage? It got lucky. Just happened to be.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Sheer luck. What are you going to do about that?
There's a speech with Trump, who I want to kill, 20 minutes away from my house. I have a gun. They're not covering a roof, the closest roof to the stage that's 150 yards away. I mean, the luck that these people have. That's just crazy. Number 2 possibility, he conducted surveillance on Trump and followed him to the golf course, or number 3.
Wait, but hang on, stay on that one. At what sophistication level does someone have to be able to track a former president?
Well, I think you could.
And conduct surveillance.
I think you could do enough surveillance to find out that he's going golfing.
How?
Like you could probably, because the golf course, I believe, is outside of Mar-a-Lago, right? So they got to travel over there. You could probably figure out that he was at Mar-a-Lago. I don't know, maybe from his truths or something, or other people talking about where he is or that they saw him. I'm sure there's people talking about this stuff, and maybe you see that he went golfing. Maybe that's the case. Maybe you did serve. I'm just devil's advocating right now. Maybe you followed him some other time and you saw that, well, I noticed that it takes him about an hour and a half to get to the 6th hole on the golf course.
But how did he know when he started playing golf?
Well, he saw him go over there. I'm just discussing the surveillance scenario. That's one scenario. Or he had inside information about Trump's schedule. And this former assistant director of the FBI says that last answer is scary and has implications that another person was involved. Yeah, another person inside of the intelligence community with high-level security clearance. Maybe in the Secret Service, or maybe in the FBI, or maybe in the CIA, just someone who works in the government. Let's see, we already did some of this stuff. We already know these things. Swecker retired from the FBI in 2006 and is now an attorney based in Charlotte, North Carolina, said that it might be time to tone down some of the rhetoric on the former president. He says there's little doubt that the demonization of Trump is resonating with the fringe elements who are mentally unstable and highly impressionable. So maybe time to tone it down a bit. I don't know. Democracy is on the ballot. I feel like he made that up himself. He and Ruth have been involved in some strange quests. He said Ruth had been involved in some strange quests, including trying to get Afghan fighters into Ukraine to fight the Russians. So we know all about that stuff that we posted. Pretty crazy to see a former assistant director of the FBI bringing this up as a possibility, but he's right. Those are the 3 possibilities. I think we can realistically cross out the luck as being one of the ways that he did this. So let's say that there's 2 possibilities. I don't think that he just got lucky. So it's either surveillance or someone on the inside. Those are the things that I would go with. And we'll see. We'll see if they're going to get anything out of him before he hangs himself in his cell. I want to leave you with a last thing here. Actually, there's one other conspiracy theory I want to go with before I play you guys the RFK video. This is a crazy one, okay? But it happens to be true. Did you guys know that yesterday we released an episode with Spike Cohen?
This is so weird.
This is weird. It's one of those what are the odds scenarios.
Was this luck or planned?
We're going to have to talk to Spike about that. Okay. He's the one with the scheduling. All right. So we released an episode with Spike Cohen that Josh Martins did. New guy Josh, as we call him. It's the third. You don't see him right here, but third person, He did an interview with Spike, which we released yesterday. Now, we have Spike on the show once a year, twice a year, stuff like that. But the last time Spike was on the show was on July 13th.
This is so weird.
July 13th, which is the first assassination attempt of Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just asking you guys, what are the odds that he's on for the first assassination attempt? And then, I mean, it is crazy when you think about it. Obviously, I'm joking right now, but what are the odds that the next time Spike is on the show is the day of the second assassination attempt?
Now, this is when the episode's released.
Yeah, he was actually on a couple days before that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So
it's just, anyhow, the problem is, I think we're going to be having Spike on the show sometime in November. And I might have to alert the Secret Service beforehand.
Let's make it after the election.
Yeah.
Like November 8th
it's
or
looking
something.
like after the election right now anyway. So we will cooperate. And we'll get down to the bottom of whatever it is Spike is doing here. Okay? Because it seems to be that he's wanting proof of his whereabouts on each one of these days. I mean, that's what it seems.
Yeah.
To be anyway, to an outside observer, and that he's trying to.
I was on the Good Morning Liberty show.
Yeah. I wasn't there. Talk to GML.
Talk to those guys.
That's pretty crazy. So anyhow, if there is a third assassination attempt in November, and it's on the day that we have Spike on, we will, from that point on, be very selective about the time Spike comes on. After that, okay. Right now, we're going to try it again to try and prove the concept, try and prove the point. Okay. Anyhow, the other thing.
That's so crazy.
Oh, that's a reminder we got to do a BetterHelp ad after this, or I do at least. Okay. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but if the things that RFK is saying in this video are true, it tells you that you just connect the dots. This guy's obsessed with Ukraine, getting people to go fight for Ukraine. He's also obsessed with Taiwan. Okay, we know those two things. Also, Haiti.
He has ties to NATO trained Afghan soldiers.
Somehow he's able to round up 1,000 Afghans who were trained to go and fight there. It doesn't just seem like a random guy from North Carolina who moved to Hawaii,
spent time in Afghanistan.
Big military bases out there in Hawaii,
Ukraine.
too. A lot of intelligence going on out there in Hawaii. Just saying. He's got some connections, is what I'm saying. All right. Super normal resume for sure.
Yeah.
For just a random guy, random nut job. From Hawaii. Let's find the video. I mean, this is from a while back. This is not something that RFK just recorded in response to this situation. It came across my feed a few days ago, and I just remembered it this morning. If all the connections he draws between Ukraine and BlackRock and the military-industrial complex, well, we know those connections are true for sure. Then the question is, does someone have a motivation to make sure that Donald Trump doesn't win this election? Are the hundreds
democracy does.
Democracy itself, yeah. Besides
democracy?
Hundreds of billions of dollars to trillions of dollars over the years, is that enough motivation for someone to say, take out someone that half the country doesn't like? Here's the video from RFK.
This is a war that should have never happened. It's a war the Russians tried repeatedly to settle on terms that were very, very beneficial to Ukraine and us. The major thing they wanted was for us to keep NATO out of the Ukraine. The big military contractors want to add new countries to NATO all the time. Why? Because then that country has to conform its military purchases to NATO weapon specifications, which means certain companies, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, General Dynamics, Boeing, and Lockheed, get a trapped market. In March of 2022, we committed $113 billion. Just to give you an example, we could have built a home for almost every homeless person in this country. We then committed another $24 billion since then, 2 months ago, and now President Biden's asking for another $60 billion. But the big, big expenses are going to come after the war, when we have to rebuild all the things that we destroyed. Mitch McConnell was asked, can we really afford to spend $113 billion to Ukraine? He said, don't worry. It's not really going to Ukraine.
It's going to American defense manufacturers.
So he just admitted it's a money laundering scheme. And who do you think owns every one of those companies? BlackRock. So Tim Scott, during the Republican debate, said, don't worry, it's not a gift to Ukraine, it's a loan. So raise your hand if you think that loan's ever getting paid back. Yeah, of course it's not. So why do they call it a loan? Because if they call it a loan, they can impose loan conditions. And what are the loan conditions that we impose on them? Number one, an extreme austerity program, so that if you're poor in Ukraine, you're going to be poor forever. Number two, most important, Ukraine has to put all of its government-owned assets up for sale to multinational corporations, including all of its agricultural land, the biggest single asset in Europe. In Ukraine, there's been 1,000 years of war fought over that land. It's the richest farmland in the world. It's the breadbasket of Europe. 500,000 kids almost, Ukrainian kids, have died to keep that land as part of Ukraine. They almost certainly didn't know about this loan condition. They've already sold 30% of it. The buyers were DuPont, Cargill, and Monsanto. Who do you think owns all of those companies? Yeah, BlackRock. And then in December, President Biden gave out the contract to rebuild Ukraine. And who do you think got that contract? BlackRock. So they're doing this right in front of us. They don't even care that we know anymore, because they know that they can get away with it. And how do they know that? Because they have a strategy. And that strategy is an old strategy, which is they keep us at war with each other. They keep us hating on each other. They keep the Republicans and Democrats fighting each other, and black against white, and all these divisions that they sow.
Sounds true.
Big if true.
Yeah.
Is what I would say. Now, he does do this thing. I almost broke in to try and fact. He says this a lot, like, who owns that? Well, BlackRock owns it. BlackRock owns all those companies. BlackRock is an investment firm. They probably own significant stakes, minority stakes in those companies, more than likely. They probably have board seats and stuff on a lot of those, whatever you call it. But
some of them, they have majority ownership.
Yeah, some of them. I haven't gone through each one of those companies to see what portion BlackRock owns, but he says that all 97% of these countries are owned by BlackRock. Well, they own some of those companies, like I own Tesla. Okay, you could say, well, Nate, he owns Tesla. Okay, well, yeah, I got all the shares in Tesla. Okay, that doesn't mean I own the company or anything. I would profit if they do well, and BlackRock would profit if these companies do well. So they have an incentive. They have a motivation, of course, but saying that they own it also sounds like they control and direct each one of them. And I would have to figure out every company he mentioned, what percentage ownership they have of those companies to see how much control they actually have. Aside from that,
BlackRock is very similar. A lot of people know Warren Buffett. Okay, well, where does Warren Buffett's wealth come from? It comes from Berkshire Hathaway. Well, what is Berkshire Hathaway? They're an investment firm where it's
like a tenth the size of BlackRock.
Right. Well, but a lot of people know Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
So essentially, they invest in a bunch of different companies. They have ownership in a lot of different companies, like Coca-Cola, and I don't think they have any. I don't think they have any war companies like BlackRock does.
I'm sure they own Boeing or something like that. They got a lot of oil companies.
And so, could you say that Warren Buffett is, advocating for war?
You probably could look at their portfolio and make the same kind of video about Warren Buffett, more than likely. Now, all that aside, the idea is there are a lot of people with a lot of financial interest to keep the money flowing into Ukraine and to not end this war, just like every other war that there is. There's a huge financial interest, especially for the military-industrial complex. And if those loan conditions he talks about are true, that'll take some investigation on my part, because I don't believe a single thing I ever hear anyone say. If those are true, there's clearly a massive financial interest for these companies to come in and rebuild, for them to buy some of this farmland, which has been called the breadbasket of Europe for a really long time, of course. So the question is, are all those things important enough to send some nut job to go take out Trump, to make sure the money keeps flowing? The answer to that is yes. It doesn't mean that that is what happened, but the answer to that is, it's yes, for sure.
I mean, anytime you're looking into an investigation, you're trying to figure out motive.
Yeah.
Is there motive?
This is a circumstantial case that we're building right now, just so you guys know. We don't have the direct ties, and more than likely all those people are going to die in random car accidents over the next week. Okay? But darn it if it isn't compelling.
They'll somehow shoot themselves 3 times in the head.
Yeah.
In the back of the head.
All right, let's get out of here.
All right, y'all, if you enjoyed today's episode, please share the show with a friend, a family member, or foe. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Go to godhatesfeds.com or joingml.com to be part of the Fed Haters Club. Do all those things or don't. I don't really care, but Nate sure as hell does.
Kind of.
He spends every waking hour and even sleep hours making sure that you guys do what he wants you to do.
I do. Yeah.
Which is do all the things I just said. Visit the sponsors in the show notes. If you do all that, we'll be back again tomorrow. Hope you have a good day and a good morning, Liberty.